Hello, I'm Eric, and today we're going to be taking a quick look at the AKG K7XX Headphones. So this is the box. So you can see I already took them out outside of the box. Inside the box you get like this cloth covered plastic case, and the headphones will be in there. And the cable will be wrapped in here. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is the cable. The cable is about 9 feet long, so it's very long. Some people probably think this is too long. I don't mind it. I actually like a long cable. And the cable is somewhat thick, but it's not as thick as the Hi-Fi-Man HE4XXs. And I'm also going to be comparing these against the Sennheiser 6XXs and the Monoprice M1060s. Now it does come with an adapter, and the adapter does not screw on. I mean, it does not snap on, but it does screw on. So you have to screw this adapter on there until it stops like that. So it doesn't just snap on there, you have to screw it on there. The next thing I want to talk about is the other end of this cable. This is the end that you plug into the headphones, and it's not a traditional 3.5. It's using some type of like mini XLR type connection. And I'm going to show you how those plug in. So here's the connection right here. And you'll notice that there's only one connection, so you can't run these balanced. Now there's going to be a tab on this connector, and you're supposed to line it up with the tab up here. And if you don't line it up, it will not go in. So you have to line it up just to plug it in. So that's good. And you press this button here, and then you pull, and you'll be able to take it out. So the next thing we're going to talk about now is the build quality. Now, I don't think the build quality is all that good, and I'm going to explain why. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the headband. Now, a lot of people, so you can see this headband moving up and down. There's this plastic thing here, this clear plastic. I'm not sure if you can see that, but as you move the headband up and down, you can see that clear plastic thing is bending. And some people have complained about this thing breaking in half. Now, the good news is, I think if this breaks in half, it's still connected to this black piece here. So as long as this bottom piece is fine, I think it might be fine. I'm not sure, but if that breaks in half, that's really bad. Another problem would be that each side has a string here, and there's a string here. And as you move it up and down, you can see that string moving. And what some people have complained about is that over time that string will wear down, and then the headphones will start to sag like this, which is not good. Now you do get a left indicator there and a right indicator there. And most of the build is plastic. It's kind of a hard plastic and not really a soft plastic like the Sennheisers. So like if you were to drop these probably would be pretty brittle, and you might actually crack something. And also, if you haven't noticed, I did leave the plastic thing on the cups, so I didn't take that off. So there's plastic right here. So the build quality is not that good. So let's talk about the comfort next. Now this headband is self-adjustable. So I do like a self-adjustable headband, so I don't have to mess with anything on each side, so it just adjusts by itself. And the comfort is really good, probably the best actually, I would say. The Sennheisers, I wear those 1-2 hours and then it starts to hurt like right here and here. And then the Hi-Fi-Mans are about almost as good as these, but these are a little bit better for the headband. I can wear these about 4 or 5 hours and it still doesn't start to hurt. It's very comfortable. It's just a flat leather piece, and it doesn't seem like it would be comfortable, but it is. And then the model prices are, I'm planning on doing a mod where I take it apart I flip it and put the flat piece touching my head. But if you don't do that and you just leave it at what it's like, the monoprice headband's probably the worst, and that's the only thing I really don't like about the monoprices. Because if you don't like adjust the thing far down enough, if you leave it up too high, it's going to put a lot of pressure in the middle. And it really starts to hurt after about an hour. So this headband is very good for comfort. Next thing I want to talk about is the pads. Now the pads do wrap around my ear without touching, but the inside of the pad does touch my ear. So it just touches just barely. The hi-fi min will touch the whole entire ear. This one just barely touches, so the inside is fine. The Sennheiser and the monoprice will not touch, and they fit around the ear really well as well. Now, the inside is kind of like a foam, but the other ones use kind of like a fabric. But this has like a fabric foam, so it has some squish to it. The next thing I want to talk about is the actual pads. And they are velour just like the Sennheisers. And the hi-fi min aren't really velour, and they're very itchy. But these are like the Sennheisers, they're very smooth and they're not itchy, so that's good. Since these are not itchy, that'd be a good thing. And the next thing I want to talk about would be the clamp. That's also another thing that's really good about these headphones. The Sennheiser has a bad clamp, so after an hour the clamp starts to hurt. And the hi-fi min has a slight clamp, so about 2 hours it might start to hurt. While these, or the monoprice is a little looser. But the clamp on these are very loose, and I could wear these for pretty much all day. And maybe it'll start to hurt just a little, but you can pretty much wear these all day. So the comfort is very good, like almost like a 10 out of 10. So the comfort's very good, but the build quality is not that great. So now let's talk about the audio quality. So let's start with the soundstage. Now the hi-fi mins probably have the least soundstage and imaging. The Sennheiser's about the same, but if you run the Sennheisers off a tube amp and also maybe even run them balanced, you'll probably get more soundstage out of them. So they might beat these for soundstage. But the Sennheiser's stock would lose to these soundstage. So these are better for soundstage. But then the monoprice M1060s beat these in soundstage and imaging. Now, usually a tube amp, well, maybe a tube amp, but usually I've noticed some people notice that running them in balanced for the Sennheisers might not improve the imaging. So even if you could improve the soundstage, these might still win over the Sennheisers for imaging. Because pretty much the same order again for imaging. Hi-fi min, then Sennheiser, then these, then monoprice. Now for bass, the hi-fi mins have quite like a boomy, like a punchy and boomy bass. These kind of have probably the most similar bass to that. It just not planar type bass. It does have a bit of sub bass and it is a little boomy, but it's not going to be able to give you as much bass as like a subwoofer. So headphones just don't really give as much bass as a subwoofer. But they give a decent, they actually have bass. So if you're wondering if they even have any bass, they do. So they're not like, they don't have, the problem is they don't have like no bass. If you're wondering if they had no bass, they don't. I mean they do. They do have bass. And then the monoprice is kind of like the hi-fi min, but just not as boomy. And the Sennheiser will sound a little more like this, but just darker. And that's another thing I want to mention. These do sound a bit dark. So the hi-fi mins, they kind of sound bright and dull. And the monoprices are kind of bright, but more clearer and just better. So I like, when it comes to clearer, like brighter sound, I like the monoprices. But when it comes to dark sounding, these or the Sennheisers, it really comes down to your personal preference. I like both of them. I mean, if I ran the Sennheisers off a tube amp, I probably would prefer those for music. So I would probably rank these third then. So hi-fi min would be last, and then these would be third. And then I'll put the Sennheisers maybe even stock over these. But if you ran the Sennheisers off tube, then I might like them better than these. But then the monoprice still takes first place for music. So the only other thing I really want to talk about, I mean the imaging, the main thing that's good about these is the imaging. So you can really tell the difference between each instrument on each side, and you can really hear things going from each side. So it has really good imaging. That's the main thing I like about this. And when I first took them out of the box, I really was impressed how these sounded. So I actually do like how these sound for music. And I would recommend them for gaming though. Now, the last thing I want to talk about would be how well can you power these. Off of my computer, they sound just fine, and you only need like 50% volume on my computer. That's how much I would need. So you should be fine running these off of a computer or a phone. Now, if you did have an amp like a UNX 1S or a Ship Magni 2 or O2 amp, because I have all three of those, on the O2 amp, you only need like 9, maybe like 9, 10 o'clock. So only like 30-40% volume. And then the Ship Magni 2 or the UNX 1S, you only need about like 10, 11 o'clock. And then the loudest I can make it is about 12 o'clock. So I wouldn't go past 12 o'clock. At about 12 o'clock, that's about as loud as I would go. So that's about all I really want to talk about these. Now, would I recommend them? Well, about 1 or 2 years ago, I had a headphone called the Philips Fidelio X2s. I sold those because I wanted to try other headphones. And if you're looking for something for gaming or music, I'd rather recommend those. Because what's the main reason why I would recommend these? Well, for comfort. Well, the X2 has very similar comfort to these. And they also have an HR version now, which I think the only difference is that they made the pads more breathable. And the comfort is just as good on those. I would say maybe this one wins just a little bit in the headband. Maybe a little better. Because maybe you like this headband better because it's more breathable. And maybe you might like the pads better on this because the clamp is just a little looser than the Philips Fidelio X2s. But the comfort on those are just as good as these. Now, unlike these have kind of bad build quality in my opinion. Well, the Philips Fidelio X2s have very good build quality, and they're all it's made mostly out of metal. So that's another thing. And then for gaming, that has a little better sound stage, but I wouldn't say the imaging would be better than these. And it has just as good, I would say it probably has better bass than these. And the only difference though is these sound dark, well those sound bright, a bit brighter. And when it comes down to which one I like that sounds better off of memory, because I don't have them side by side, I'd probably take the Philips Fidelio X2s. Also, you can find those off of eBay for used for around 150. If you're lucky, maybe you'll get one for about $100 or maybe even less. So if you get lucky on those Philips Fidelio X2s on eBay, I'd rather recommend those over these. So around $100, maybe 150, I'd recommend those. Those are pretty much the best headphones you can get for about $100 if you get them used. If you're going to spend more money, I'd recommend the Monoprice M1060s. So that's about all I really want to talk about these. So thank you for watching my review. The next headphone I'm probably going to be reviewing is the Monoprice M1060s. I'm going to try to see if I can take the headband off and flip it over, because I want to see what it feels like if I just use the flat side for the top of my head. But other than that, thank you for watching.